Good morning. For lesson 98, we're talking about relations and functions today. We're going to be able to tell if a relation is a function, or we're going to be able to look at the vertical line test, and then we're also going to talk about scatter plots. Okay, first, what is a relation? A relation is a pair of two sets of numbers. So like an athlete's jersey number with the points that they scored, or a name with a phone number. That's a relationship with two sets of numbers. It can also be described in set notation, so you'll see it in set notation. We'll see it in a table of pairs or with an equation, or a graph. So if I were to say y is equal to 3x, and I can do a table with my input, my x, and my output, my y, and if I choose some different values for x, my input, if I have x is equal to 0, well, 3 times 0, y would be 0. If I have my x is equal to 1, 3 times 1 will just give me 3. And if we pick a 2 for my x, 3 times 2 will give me 6. So those are my pairs of numbers, and they are a relation. So some terms to review. You'll see Saxon Math, they'll use the word domain. That is our input. It's usually x. So our input is our domain. Our range would be our output, our y. And to be a function, it takes one input for x, so only one input for x, and it has only one output for y to be a function. And not all relations are functions. So let's take a look at those. So here's a couple examples in table form. On the left, you'll see this is a function because for every input for x, there's only one y. If I have a 0, I have a 0. 2, 6, and I have 3 and 9 and 4 and 12. Those are, for one input, I only have one output. But if we come over here and look at the table on the right, this is not a function because I'm looking at my x inputs. I have a 0, 4, 6, 4, 10, and 0. And if I'm looking, do I have more than one x that matches? Well, I have this one that matches and I have this one that matches. Let's start with our zeros. And I said when x is 0, y should be 0. But down here it says when x is 0, y is 3. We can only have the same output for each input. Same here, I saw 4 and a 4. I have a 4 here and I have a 4 here. I said when x is 4, y should be 10. And when x is 4, they said y is 30. So this is not a function. To check if something is a function, we can also use a vertical line test. If a vertical line can be drawn through a graph that passes through more than one point on a graph of a relation, it is not a function. So what we can say if a vertical line my pen isn't working today, guys. I apologize. Let's try this again. If I have a vertical line and it passes once, that means it is a function. Okay? If we have a vertical line and it passes more than once, passes through my graph more than once, the relation is not a function. Does not equal a function. Not a function. Okay? Let's try some examples. So let's draw a vertical line. Here, I'm going to have graph number 1. And if I draw a vertical line, all these vertical lines that I'm drawing, this is a function because I'm only passing at one point on each of these passes. Okay, so this would be a function. So this is a function. Okay, let's try graph number 2. Let's try our vertical line test here. If I draw a vertical line, it's passing more than once. I'm passing here, 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 and here. I'm passing my graph more than once, so this is not a function. What about graph number 3? Would this be a function? Let's try it. Here's my vertical line test. I'm passing this just once. I passed my line just one time, so yes, this would be a function. Yes, that is a function. What about graph number 4? Can you guys see if graph number 4 is a function? Well, if I draw my lines, yes, this is a function. What about 5? What if I draw my vertical lines here? Would this be a function? I'm passing more than once. So no, this relation is not a function. Let's try our last graph, graph number 6. If I draw my vertical lines, I'm passing, as you guys can see, more than once. So no, this is not a function. Okay? Okay, so as we've seen, I want to explain to you that functions can be linear or nonlinear. Well, what does linear mean? Linear just means a straight line. So this is a function, right? These straight lines, these are a function. They pass my vertical line test. Nonlinear is a graph that is not in a straight line, and yes, this is a function as well. So functions can be linear or nonlinear. They can go in a straight line or not in a straight line. Okay, now we're going to talk briefly about scatter plots. What a scatter plot is a graph that shows data points on a coordinate plane that represent pairs of related values. We talked about correlations before. That's just relationships between data. And we're going to talk about the best fit line for a scatter plot. Or you'll see your book sometimes calls it a trend line. It fits into most of the data. So let's look at a couple scatter plots here. Now it says drawing a best fit line. You can see these scatter plots. In plot number 1, this is a positive correlation. Why would it be a positive correlation? Why do you think? Well, it's because my slope is positive, yeah? So if I have a positive slope, I have a positive correlation. And when we draw a best fit line, we want to draw a line that fits most of these dots. So I wouldn't draw a line like this across. That wouldn't be a best fit line because it doesn't fit most of my data points, right? So if I'm trying to draw a best fit line, I would draw it so that most of the data points were on either side. Sorry, that wasn't really a great line, but that's okay. Let's try again. So I want to have kind of like an equal distribution of blue dots on the left and on the right. Okay? So if I were to try to draw a best fit line for my graph number 2, this has a negative correlation. Why is it a negative correlation? Because my slope is negative here. And again, drawing a best fit line, we just want to make sure that we try to have most of the dots either on the left or the right or right in the middle of that line. And of course, if we look at graph number 3, there's really no correlation. My scatter plots, they're kind of all over the place, so we don't have a correlation there. Okay, that's it for today. You have an Alex assignment to do. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Have a great day.